I was talking about the state of the car market in the last video that I just put together. It was going over a little bit, so I decided to leave this part out and make a different video on it. There's some information, some statistics, and things like that with regard to how the car market is performing these days, and some numbers with regard to over the last 10 years, with regard to how much they cost and how many are sitting on the lots across America and things like that. So, just starting off with this, how much car debt did America have in 2015? Well, in 2015, total U.S. auto loan debt was approximately $968 billion, according to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which is pretty substantial. That's almost $1 trillion worth of debt. Now, there's about 300 million vehicles on the road today in total, but a lot of people don't have car loans, myself included, maybe you included, may not have a car loan. But anyway, I'm just going to kind of humor myself, at least, if nothing else. So 968 billion divided by 300 million. So that's about $3,226 for every motor vehicle. That would be an average if every single person had a loan on a car, but which that's not the case. I just figured I would throw that out. It's still in the thousands of dollars, though, needless to say. But anyway, the total car debt in America each year from the year 2000 until the year 25. So we've got a quarter of a century worth of the total car debt in America over that period of time, starting in the year 2000. So in 2000, it was roughly about $555 billion, estimated based on trends from the Federal Reserve data. The exact yearly figure is not directly available, hence the estimated little squiggly line there. And it goes up $50 billion a year for the next few years, 2001 to 2003. And then it only goes up $20 billion for 04, then $30 billion for 05. And then it continues going up a little bit, just a little bit, only $10 billion in 2008, only $5 billion by 2009, an increase. Same with 2010. Then it's $20 billion more from 2010 to 2011. Then it's $60 billion more. Then it's $30 billion more for 2013. And then so on, about 40. So with regard to this, 2015, $968 billion. That is from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, quarter one, 2015. Now compare that all the way down to 2025, which is $1.64 trillion in car debt. That represents where is it? Oh, the number's not there. Anyway, here, it actually says it down here. I just thought I'd make it a little easier on myself, but apparently it didn't keep that note. But anyway, it is roughly a 69.28% increase from 2015 to 2025, basically a 70% increase in the amount of total car debt that's across America from 2015 to 2025 in just 10 years. It's not far away from doubling, which is absolutely insane. Probably 5 years from now, I'm sure it will have more than doubled from 2015 to 2030. Absolutely insane. It's only going to keep going up too until people decide to quit buying cars. And we've got the tariffs that are coming. Supposedly they're supposed to show up at some point this month or next month, something like that. They're on the way. The automakers have been very clear that they have to raise car prices. And in the last video I did, I showed that Toyota, they're earning about 10% profit on every vehicle that they sell, just the company Toyota. So if the tariffs increase to 25%, and let's say that they have to completely import a Toyota from Japan or from another country, they're going to have to increase it by at least 15%, the car price, in order to break even. I mean, unless my math is all screwed up, which math isn't my strongest suit anyway, but roughly that's about what they're going to have to increase just to break even. And the shareholders, the stakeholders, they're not going to want to break even. They're going to want to, at a minimum, keep that 10% profit on each vehicle that they sell. So with the tariffs coming, they're going to have to raise the cost of cars. And right now, the average cost for a new vehicle is about 50 grand. So having to raise it 25% to 62.5, that's a lot of money. And I don't know if everybody's going to be on board with doing that, with spending that much money on a new car. Not to say that most people buy a new car. Most people don't. Plus, there's leasing. A lot of people lease vehicles. They just want to just perpetually just rent a car for the rest of their lives. And a lot of people are quite content with that. They're happy with that. It gives them the peace of mind that if it breaks down, it's taken care of. It's almost like renting like an apartment or something. If something breaks, yeah, it's my problem today. I'm stuck on the side of the road in the case of a vehicle, but at least it's not going to come directly out of my pocket. So I understand the argument for that. I mean, I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I drive a 90s car that I only paid about $1,000 for in cash. I've been driving it for 10 years. I've kept up on the maintenance. I guess I got lucky. The previous owner who had it, they were the first owner. They bought it brand new. It spent its entire life in Florida. It's still here. So, the rust and all that's no issue at all. So I guess I lucked out in many different aspects as to where if you live up in the Northeast or in the Midwest or wherever, not everybody can be that lucky with regard to an older car. But, some people, they just decide to go older, and then you can avoid this altogether. And your insurance is dirt cheap. I mean, I believe that Florida is still the highest car insurance state in the entire union. And my car insurance is currently at $42 a month. And I do pay the 6 months up front. So you will get a break on your car insurance if you do that. Pay it 6 months up front. And for me, I think I saved I think it was like $60, maybe $80 or something like that, just by paying up the 6 months up front. So, I mean, every little bit helps, especially in today's economy. So anyway, there's the notes and the sources for the last 25 years of the car debt, currently at 1.64 trillion, as I already said, which is completely crazy. I mean, what does that actually average to for every American? I mean, again, I know all Americans don't have car debt, but what would that average out to? Let's see, 1 million, billion, trillion divided by how many adults are there? Let's say let's do 250 million. That's about $6,568 on average per adult American worth of car debt out there. That's crazy. That's actually not far away from the average amount of credit card debt. I think the average amount of credit card debt across every adult it's somewhere around the $8,000 or maybe $9,000 range, somewhere around there, which is crazy. Some of us don't have credit card debt, but it still averages to that amount because there's a lot of people out there with insane amounts of credit card debt. Same with these car loans. Some people, they're getting cars for over $100,000. Brand new Jeep Wagoneer, a Jeep, Jeep, made by Stellantis. Jeep. They go off-road, Jeep Wrangler. Everybody knows what a Jeep is. It's a freaking Jeep. And they're selling these things for $120,000 for the top trim model of a freaking Jeep Wagoneer. Absolutely insane. I cannot believe somebody would be that stupid to buy a freaking Jeep for that amount of money. Insane. You could buy a freaking Porsche. You could buy a new Porsche crossover or an SUV for cheaper than that. I don't know what they're making right now, the Cayenne, or there's another one that's it's like 90 or like maybe 100,000 new. And apparently they're actually pretty reliable, or at least that's what I heard. But anyway, let me go ahead and move on here. So how much overall vehicle inventory is on dealership lots across America? And then I wanted it to break it down from 2015 to 2025, just to get an idea as to how many cars were sitting on lots, on dealership lots across America before the COVID pandemic started and after. So in 2015, there was about 3.5 million vehicles sitting all across America on dealership lots, ready to be sold. And that's where we were in 2015. It went up to 3.6 million in 2016. And as you can see, it goes up and up 2018, 2019. And then it drops in 2020, of course, because the supply chain, the lockdowns, the yada this, yada that. But in 2020, according to Cox Automotive, at the end of May 2020, there was the pre-chip shortage, which increased the day supply to 92-day supply. I did forget about that whole chip shortage debacle. And in 2021, look at this, the supply went from 3 million all the way down to 1.5 million. So the amount of cars on lots were roughly cut in half in 2021. And if you're familiar with the car market over the last 5 years, you might remember in 2021, it was a car buying frenzy. It was a massive seller's market, at least for the dealerships. They were doing markups. They were charging ridiculous amounts of money for the stupidest things like nitrogen tires. They were charging customers like $500, $800 for nitrogen tires, which is hilarious. All they do is they just put nitrogen gas into your tires, which, yeah, it might help it a little bit, but not really enough to really matter a whole lot. Plus, you can go to, I believe it's Costco, right? Costco, maybe even Wawa. I think possibly, I know the air at Wawa's free. I can't remember if they do nitrogen there or not, but I believe it's at Costco. You can actually go up there and you can get nitrogen. You can put it in your own tires by yourself for free. They don't charge for it. But if you buy a new car from a dealership in 2021, yeah, they were charging you hundreds of dollars for nitrogen, and people were just buying it. They didn't care. They just wanted a new car. They were flush with all that COVID cash, and they just, gimme, gimme, gimme. I just got to get a new car. So yeah, they were charging absurd amounts of money. A lot of people are really struggling really hard today because of that, because they just were not thinking. They didn't care. They got all emotional, as people tend to do when they go to a dealership. And the salesmen, they like to prey on your emotions. They want to show you the most beautiful vehicle that you've ever seen. And, oh, you know you want this. I can get it in your hands, key in your hand, driving off the lot today. All you got to do is just sign here, 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 and about 50 other places. And then the car's all yours for about, $1,800 a month or whatever the hell people were paying. I mean, most people are not paying that much. The average new car payment today, it's about $740 a month, which is absolutely insane. $525 a month for the average used car. $525 a month. Doesn't include your insurance, doesn't include gas or any of that other fun stuff, or maintenance, because when you buy a used car, especially if it's kind of older, you're going to have to maintain it. Once that odometer starts to etch up to about 100,000 miles, there's certain things you're going to have to get replaced in it. You're going to want to flush out the coolant. You might want to flush out the power steering fluid, all those little things. Spark plugs and timing belt, if you got a timing belt. It's not just changing the oil, folks. You got to do a lot of other stuff to your car to keep it running. But if you do, if you stick it straight to the book, straight with your owner's manual, it tells you everything in there, mileage-wise, what you should change under your hood. And if you stick to it, your car should have no problem hitting 250, 300, 350,000 miles. Really shouldn't, especially if you have a car that has that reputation, like a Toyota or a Honda or even a Mazda. I know there's different schools of thought with regard to Mazda. Same with Mitsubishi. I stand behind Mitsubishi because my car is in a 250,000-mile range, and it's a 99, and knock on wood, it's still doing okay. But I keep it strictly maintained, and it's actually pretty cheap, especially if you have an older car. It's actually not too bad at all. But anyway, so 2021, 2022, 1.7 million cars were sitting on lots across America. Then it inched up to 2 by 2023. And then it spiked up real high in 2024, 3.14 million. Was that? Okay, so that wasn't higher than 2017, 2018, 2019. So it was approaching 4 million in 2019. So compared to, post-COVID, compared to pre-COVID, vehicles were really overflowing on lots. I mean, I hear that a lot on the internet from all these car enthusiast channels and these car expert channels. They keep saying that the dealership lots are overflowing. They're bursting at the seams. They've got overflow lots behind the dealership. There's some dealerships, they're actually renting extra storage space. They're renting like 3 acres of land down the street that they're packing cars on because the inventory is so out of control. Well, pre-COVID, it was a lot higher than it is now. So, I mean, I didn't hear anything about inventory exploding like crazy in 2019. 2019 was actually a great year for our economy, if I remember right. So anyway, inventory-wise, historically speaking, isn't that bad. I mean, compared to, from 2020 through 2023, I mean, yeah, the inventory's been higher these last couple of years, but overall, doesn't really seem to be too bad. But the tariffs are on the way. The car prices may increase 15 to 25%. So when the cars go up in cost, you might get fewer people buying them. At least I would assume so. But I don't know, man. It seems like the average American they just lack any and all common sense when it comes to finance. So maybe it won't make any difference. Maybe if they increase the vehicles to an average of $80,000, as long as the bank says you're approved, who knows? Maybe the same amount of people who are buying new cars today will just continue buying them if they're that much. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, let's see here. So key observations and some extra notes with regard to that over the last 10 years. Let's see, 60-day supply is historically ideal for car dealerships. And the reason for that is because, as I explained in my last video, most car dealerships, I believe it's most car dealerships, they have what's called a floor plan. And a floor plan, that means that all those cars that they have sitting on their lot, they might have 100 cars, they might have 500 cars sitting on a dealership lot in total. They're not paying for those vehicles up front. They're not just giving the MSRP or whatever deal that they made with the car manufacturer to put those cars on the lot. They didn't just pay cash for all of them and they're just going to sell them out to all the consumers. They actually are dealing with a lender or a financial institution, and they're essentially swiping a credit card. And what this lender, this bank is doing, they're giving them a certain amount of money, $3 million, $5 million, whatever the credit limit is, and they use those funds to buy their supply of inventory of new cars. And generally, they have 60 days for those cars to sit on the lot, and as long as they sell the car within 60 days, they don't have to pay any interest on that individual vehicle sitting on the lot, long as they get it sold within 60 days. If it sits on the lot for over that, 90 days, 120 days, well, they have to pay an interest rate month per month on that individual vehicle, and every single individual vehicle that sits on the lot. So as you can imagine, if there's a vehicle that's been sitting on the dealership lot for like 8 months or 9 months or even longer, they're paying a lot of money to that financial institution because that car is still sitting on the lot. And there's some dealerships, there's a few dealerships like I believe Ram pickup trucks, and I know there's a couple other brands out there. Jeep, I believe, is another one. They've got some vehicles that are still there from 2023. And you can go to, I know caredge.com is one of those websites where you can go to. You can shop for a car. If you find a specific car at a dealership that you're interested in buying, most dealerships will show on their website how many days that car's been sitting there waiting to get bought up. But if that dealership doesn't show that, and if you're interested, you can take that VIN number that they have with the car and you could plug it into a website like CarEdge, and it'll tell you exactly how many days that car's been sitting there waiting to be sold, which you could use as a bargaining chip. You can let them know, like, hey, you're charging this amount of money for it. I want to, I think I've got the upper hand here because you've had this car sitting here for 182 days. I mean, I'm sure that you're a floor plan dealership and you're paying month by month. Just every month that car sits there, that's just another payment you have to give to the bank. So I'll take it off your hands today, but you got to knock $3,000 off of it, or, something like that. I don't know. I just figured you could probably bargain a little bit with that information at least, but what do I know? Anyway, so let's see here. Connection to auto loan debt. There's a little bit of information regarding that. Let's see here. So let me go down to the next one. And by the way, these are all the sources that it's giving for that this list here of the the vehicle inventory. I don't know why I couldn't get that out, but yeah, so that's what I like about Grok. It actually shows you where it's getting its information from. Cox Auto, it's a reliable website. CarEdge.com, that's funny, I just mentioned them. That's a pretty reliable one. Fred.stlouisfed.org, that's reliable. That's essentially the federal government. I don't know why it's not a .gov website, because I thought that was from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, but anyway, so yeah, showing sources. Anyway, let's see here. So the average vehicle age on the road in America, year by year from 2015 to 2025. This might surprise you. Below is the average age of vehicles, passenger cars, and light trucks on the road in the United States year by year from 2015 to 2025, based on data from sources like S&P Global Mobility, IHS Markit, and the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. Where exact yearly figures are unavailable, I've noted estimates or gaps. All ages are in years, reflecting the average age of vehicles in operation. So, in 2015, the average vehicle age on the road was 11 years and 6 months old, 11 and a half years old. And in 2015, according to IHS Automotive, that is an all-time record high at the time. In 2015, that was the year that the average age of a vehicle on the road being 11 and a half years old, that was the oldest average age of a motor vehicle on the road in American history. At least that's how I'm reading it. And it keeps repeating this as the list goes on. 2016, 11.6 years, 11.7, 8, 9, 11.9, didn't change from 2019 to 2020. Then 2021, 12.1, 1. So it says IHS Markit, first time above 12 years, driven by pandemic effects. So this marks the first time that the average age of a motor vehicle on the road in America reached 12 years old on average. So it just keeps going up, 12.2, 0.5, 0.6. And currently in 2025, the average age of a motor vehicle on the road today is 12.8 years. And I think the reason for that is because while a lot of people continue buying new cars or leasing cars or buying newer used cars, there's a lot of other people out there who are just sticking with the car that they have now, and they're just taking it to the shop when it's needed. They're getting it maintained, and they're trying to keep it on the road for as long as humanly possible, because the average used car payment, $525 a month. Most of us could really use $525 a month for a slew of other things besides a damn car payment. I know myself especially. I mean, look, if you just do the simple math, I mean, here, 525, that's $6,300 a year. I'm sure that you could come up with at least something that you could use an extra $6,300 a year for. Not to mention, if your car's paid off, some people choose not to, but most people, once your car's paid off, you can drop the collision insurance and just pick up liability insurance. And that should significantly drop your car insurance. I would imagine at least probably 30, 40%, maybe even more than that. I mean, again, my car insurance in the highest car insurance state in the country is only $42 a month. Granted, I drive a car from the 90s. It's pushing 30 years old almost. Can't wait till it hits 30 because then I can get the antique license plate. Then my car registration is only going to be $7.50 a year. God bless Florida, man. That's awesome. $7.50 a year. But car registration annually in Florida, actually, I just got my car registered, re-registered for the next 2 years, which they allow you to do. You can register it every 2 years or every 1 year. It's like $28 a year. And it doesn't matter if you drive like an old Pinto or if you drive a brand new Bugatti. Whatever kind of vehicle you have, as long as it's a car, a truck, if it's not a commercial vehicle, it's like $28 a year. That's it, no matter what it is. Some states, they do make and model and year. So if you're driving a brand new anything, your registration's like $300 a year or whatever. That's crazy. But there are states that do that, but this state isn't one of them. But if your vehicle crosses the age of 30, it's considered an antique, and the registration is even cheaper than that. It's not even $8 a year. So yeah, that's nice. So I'll get to save like $20 a year. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, so key observations, the connection to previous queries, auto loan debt. So as auto loan debt rose from 9, I wonder if this is too small. Is this too small? Should I make this a little bit bigger? Oh wow, it jacked it all up. Uh-oh. Now it's getting way crazy. Uh-oh. All right, let's see here. Now I lost my spot, or did I? Up 2 months. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. The average vehicle age. Yeah, that's where I was. Okay. All right. The average vehicle age has steadily increased to 12.8 years as of 2025. It's driven by improved vehicle durability. And I'm not so sure about these days, but historically speaking, of course, vehicle from the 90s, from the 2000s, and probably most of the 2010s, you're probably driving a very reliable vehicle as long as you have the right make and model, which I would say most vehicles are pretty reliable if you have a car in that range. But let's see here. Aftermarket impact. So as auto loan debt rose from $968 billion in 2015 to $1.642 trillion in 2025, older vehicles, which require more maintenance, likely contributed to financing trends as owners kept cars longer instead of buying new ones. And it all comes down to the price. The more they cost, as long as wages are stagnated and they're not moving with inflation, fewer and fewer people are going to be buying newer cars at the end of the day. And I'm sure that the automakers are really nervous about that. I mean, like Nissan, for example, they're on their way out. I don't think Nissan's going to exist a year from now. They lost 99% of their profit last year just because of just the market conditions, and they're having to do damage control with their reputation because those CVT transmissions and a whole slew of other things that Nissan really screwed up on, which is a real damn shame because Nissan, they had some great vehicles in the 90s, man. If only they just stuck with it. But nope, they had to screw all that up in one way or another. But anyway, so moving on to the next point that I came up with, the number of vehicles on the road in America today that are 15 years old or older. So let's see here. 15 years old or older. So did I highlight that? Oh yeah, here we go. So the final answer. So approximately 74 to 89 million vehicles on the US roads currently this year are either 15 years old or older. The best estimate, around 80 million vehicles on the road are at least 15 years old as of today. And it didn't save my note. I don't know why it's not saving my note. I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. But anyway, there's about 300 million vehicles on the road. And yeah, a lot of people, they have more than one vehicle per person. People, they drive their work truck and they got their personal truck. I'm sure it includes all that. Here, if you want me to get technical, it's 298. Whoops. It's 298 million cars on the road. So 80 million, 298. That brings it to about almost 27% of all vehicles on the road today are at least 15 years old. So there you go. You stick that in your pipe and smoke it. So anyway, all right, so let's go to the next thing. Is there low buyer demand for newer vehicles across America? If so, how long compared to previous years? Let's go into it here. So monthly trends. Let's see here. Current demand. U.S. new vehicle sales in 2024 reached 15.9 million units sold, a 2.2 increase from 2023, the highest since 2019. For 2025, Cox Automotive forecasts 16.3 million units, a modest 3% increase from 2024, indicating sustained but not robust demand. The monthly trends, May 2025 sales were 1.47 million units. That's up 1.4% year over year, but down from the stronger March and April surges driven by tariff-related rush buying. This suggests a deceleration after an early year spike. Now, they don't mention the fact that March and April, that's tax time. That's when a lot of people, they get their tax returns, they use that as a down payment for a car, and they go out and they buy a car. The ones who are responsible enough with their finances, if they live paycheck to paycheck, if they don't have at least 3 months worth of emergency savings put away in case, God forbid, anything happens. If they don't have all of that set up, they really should be taking that $5,000 or $3,000 or however much that they got from their tax return, and they should be buying a car in full. It's going to be an old beater. It'll be dented up. It'll be whatever. But if it's turnkey ready, the tires they might need to get changed in about 1,000 miles or so. You know, you're not going to find a car that's in perfect shape for $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever. It's going to need something at some point, and that some point may not be that far away. But anyway, that's what people should be getting, but they're not. They're using that money for down payments, and they get locked into a $750 a month new car payment. But anyway, it doesn't mention that. It just mentions the tariffs, but it's not only the tariffs that drove stronger sales in March and April, it's also tax return time. So, and every year, the springtime, every year, that's the time where dealerships, car lots, buy here, pay here lots, that's when they do the best when it comes to selling vehicles. And if you want to mark it on your calendar, if you have an old car that you plan on selling at some point, but you're not in a big hurry to sell it next spring. If you want to hang on to it until next spring, that's when you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck out of it, especially if it's an older car. Because older cars, they're going up and up in cost these days because a lot of people are taking my advice and they're trying to find an actual cheap car. By that, I mean a car that costs like less than $10,000, and they just want to buy a car in full, or if they have to finance it, they're able to get it paid off in like 12 months or maybe 24 months. Because I don't know how many people realize this, but you can actually go to your local bank or your credit union, whoever you're a member with. You can sit down with them and you can get a car loan without even finding a car yet. You can go to them and get approved for a loan, and they'll tell you how much you're approved for. You can give them a number, or you can ask them to give you a number. Like, well, I don't. How much would you approve me for? And if they say, well, we'll approve you for up to $10,000 for a motor vehicle. Now you know. Now you've been approved, and now you've got a budget. You can also ask them, how much will that cost per month? They'll tell you how much it'll be monthly, how much your interest rate will be, and they can lay it all out in front of you. How much will it cost if I get it paid off within 12 months or 24 months or 36 months? You can take that information knowing that you've got $10,000 that your credit union or your bank will lend to you. Then you can go car shopping. And you also could use a little bit of an upper hand or a bargaining chip with that, because you can communicate to either a dealership, buy here, pay here lot, or even a private seller on Facebook Marketplace that you're going to buy it in full, in cash. Then when it comes time, the haggling's over. Now it's time for the payment, ready to give the keys to you, ready to sign the title and all that. That's when you can give them the bank check for the car loan or whatever. Now, things might have changed. Last time I did that was in like 2004. So maybe things have changed since then, but I'm pretty sure that it's probably still the same gist that it was back then. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize that you can actually go to your bank and find out how much money that they'll approve you for. Then you can use that information to go car shopping, and then you can go try to find the best car that you can for the amount. Doesn't mean that you should be looking for one for $10,000 specifically, but at least you know that's your limit, the most that you can afford, or that your lender will allow you to get a loan for. So let's see here. So comparison to previous years with regard to low buyer demand for newer vehicles in America. From 2015 to 2019, annual new vehicle sales, they ranged from 17.2 million vehicles sold to 17.8 million, which peaked at 17.5 million on average. And this was a period of strong demand supported by low interest rates, stable fuel prices, and high consumer confidence. The dealer inventories were robust, averaging 3.5 to 3.87 million units, with days supply around 90 to 95 days, indicating ample supply to meet demand. So 2020 to 2022, roughly around the same, except in inventory, it plummeted all the way down to 1.5 million in 2021 and 1.7 million in 2022. So they took a big hit for that with inventory because of the supply shortage, the chip shortage, all that was going on. Plus, there was a very high demand because everybody was flushed with all that COVID cash and they wanted to go out and buy a new car. Everybody was crazy for a new car back in 2021, and most people got completely screwed because a lot of those dealerships, you were not buying the car for sticker price. You were going to end up buying that car for $10,000 over sticker, $20,000 over sticker. And these crazy ass banks, they were approving it all. Historically, banks don't generally allow you to buy a car for more than it's worth. They didn't used to do that. I don't know when they started doing that, but obviously they were doing it in 2021, which was absolutely mind-blowing to me. But, the banks, I don't know, maybe they just assume they're too big to fail because 2008 happened and they were all bailed out for that. So, if all this shit goes belly up again, then to hell with it. The federal government's going to bail us out. So I don't even know. But anyway, so how low is 2025 demand compared to previous years? We basically already went through all that, so I'll just move on down from that. So from 2023 to 2024, demand growth is slowing down, with May of 2025 sales up only 1.4% year over year, impacted by pulled forward purchases. Plus, we have the tariffs looming. Factors supporting demand include rising inventories, 2.5 million in May of 2025, increasing incentives. The average incentives per vehicle currently apparently are $3,300 per vehicle, and lower loan rates but high prices. Tariff uncertainty and a preference for used vehicles or retaining their older vehicles, which I highly recommend. If there's nothing wrong with your vehicle, you shouldn't even be looking at a new car or a used car. You shouldn't be looking at any car. The only thing you should be looking at is your maintenance schedule and what's the next thing that you should be taking your car in for, or the next thing you should be looking up on YouTube to fix yourself. That's what you should be doing. You shouldn't even be browsing, perusing, nothing when it comes to even an older used car. If your current car works, why are you going to get rid of it? You already know, especially if you've been driving the car for 5 years or 10 years or what have you, you already have, in detail knowledge with your vehicle. You know what's new on it. You know what was recently done to it. You already know that car pretty much backwards and front at that point, or at least you should. So, why get rid of something that you already know all about and trade for something that you don't know anything about? You know the mileage, you know the reputation of the make and model, you know what year it is. You don't know the previous driver's habits or anything like that. They could have driven it like a speed demon, or, maybe they never changed the oil or something. Who knows? But anyway, so the percentage of drivers with a car loan who have negative equity. So for 2025, approximately 25 to 39% of drivers with car loans in the United States today have negative equity, which means that they owe more money on their auto loans than their vehicles are worth. So if you bought a car for $50,000, you drive it off the lot. The day you drive it off the lot, you still owe $50,000. Actually, including interest, you actually owe probably more like $65,000, maybe even more. But the day you drive it off the lot, it drops from like 50,000 in value to like 40,000 in value the same day. But you don't owe 40,000, you still owe 50,000. So right off the bat, most people, they got negative equity the day they drive it off the lot, unless you put down like 20% on the car. If you put down a sizable down payment, your down payment alone may cover that, and you may not be in negative equity territory for the duration of your loan. But up to 40% of people out there with a loan today, they do have negative equity. They do owe more than their vehicle's worth. And if they don't have gap insurance, and if somebody crashes into them, or if they crash into somebody, their car gets totaled, they're kind of screwed. Unless, of course, they have the gap insurance. But anyway, so let's see here. So according to Car Edge and Black Book, they found that 39% of drivers who financed their vehicles were underwater, with 44% of those who purchased since 2022 facing negative equity. So these are all recent car buyers. And I won't go over it in this video. I'll see if I can try to dig up a video somewhere where it's discussed about with regard to how fast that vehicles are depreciating. I actually just saw a video the other day where somebody went over that, and they were just giving examples of cars that were dropping like a freaking rock with their values, like Maserati being one of the big ones. Like if you bought a Maserati new, within, I think it was like 2 years of buying a Maserati, it depreciates by like 50%. Like you lose insane amounts of money in depreciation on those vehicles specifically, but there's also other makes and models out there that also depreciate really fast. Probably BMW, probably Mercedes, probably maybe even Porsche, I don't know. But yeah, there are some vehicles out there, they drop like crazy. I'm sure the Jeep Wagoneer, probably the Jeep Wranglers, they probably still hold their value fairly well. The only problem is how much money they're selling them for, or at least they're trying to. So let's see here, context and comparisons. I believe I'm pretty much at the bottom of all this. I mean, that it goes over a lot of nitty gritty details, but the gist of it is that, what was it, 28% or 25 to 40% of drivers currently have negative equity, which is really crazy. That is so many people. Let's see here, percentage of negative equity year by year from 2015 to 2025. So back in 2015, an average of 28% of people who had a car loan back then, they were upside down on their car loan. They owed more than their car was worth in 2015, 28%. Then 2016, it went up by 1%, another 1%, 2017, another percent, little more in 2019. Then it shot up to 44% in 2020, but then look at 2021. It dropped all the way down to 17%. It dropped like a rock. And according to Edmunds, it reflects temporary relief from high used car values during the chip shortage, which reduced negative equity. Meaning your used car went way up in value because everybody who's got a car loan, they're driving a used car. Your car's no longer new as soon as you drive it off the lot. It goes from new to used. So even if your car is 2 days old, if you've only been driving it for 2 days, it's still a used car. But yeah, during the chip shortage and the supply chain shortage in 2021, vehicle values went way up, which erased a lot of people's negative equity, but only temporarily. Then the car values started plummeting again. So let's see here. So used car values began to decline again in 2022, which is why it went up by 1%. Then 23, it went up to 20. 2024, it's at 25%. And right now, it's ranging anywhere from 25 to 39%, depending on who you ask. So Edmunds and Trade-ins, as well as Car Edge, they are hold on. I read that wrong. Edmunds is saying that it's about 25%, while Car Edge is saying it's near 40%. So I guess you could maybe take the middle and just call it like, 32%, maybe, give or take. So, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of drivers. That's a lot of people with negative equity. And that's not good, man. What people really have to do, they just have to pay off their cars. And don't get a 72-month loan. Don't get an 84-month loan. That is so insane. 84 months. Isn't that 7 years? That's 7 years, right? Yeah, 7 years. I mean, some people are even getting 96-month loans. I mean, there are lenders out there who offer 96-month loans. It is absolutely brutally insane to be driving a car and paying on it for that amount of time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Okay, so I paused the video for a second. You didn't even notice that, did you? But I did pause the video for a minute because I wanted to look up that video clip of the depreciating vehicles, and I found it. It's over on Youssef Benalal's channel, and he's a lot more popular on TikTok from what I understand, but he's got a pretty good base here on YouTube, but he's got a lot of really good insight into this whole car market thing. A lot of people call him for advice, or people call to try to get rid of their vehicle, and he actually works for a dealership or an auto dealer group or something like that, and they buy new and used cars and, you know, all that good fun stuff. But anyway, here are some SUVs with crazy depreciation values and negative equity. Do not buy these vehicles new. And this guy gives out great advice all the time. So definitely listen to what he has to say with regard to this. If you're looking to buy a new car, and more specifically, if you're looking to buy a new SUV, unless you're just going to pay cash for it and you don't care about its depreciation value, if you want to drive it for the next 20 years or whatever, maybe that doesn't matter to you. But if you're buying it with the intention of possibly trading it in down the road, these are some of the vehicles that you really should stay away from. So I didn't have a chance to check the volume levels or anything, but I'll just give it a play. Hopefully it won't be too loud or too quiet.
Y'all getting the oil change in my Audi RSQ8 after doing
Actually, I'm going to crank it up.
In 4 weeks. I wanted to talk to you about the most depreciating SUVs in the market right now, or rather the SUVs that have depreciated the most, that haven't come across my desk when people are trying to buy or sell or trade into a new vehicle. Maserati or Levantes are always top of the list when it comes to depreciation, especially after the first
Maserati.
Their stickers are about between $89,000 to $94,000, and now they're selling for about $50,000 to $60,000. And the rating is about a 5.5 out of 10. A great SUV to lease if you're into luxury SUVs, but to buy, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. The depreciation on these is diabolical. I'm talking about over 40 to 50% in just 1 or 2 years after ownership in depreciation. That's over $50,000 in some cases, guys. And that's not including if you roll over a trade into Maserati Levante.
Exactly. And he raises a good point. A lot of people are in negative equity because they roll over negative equity into another car. So they owe, let's say, $20,000 on the vehicle they're driving right now. They owe $20,000 more than this vehicle is worth, but they want to trade it in anyway. And they're crazy enough to do it, so they'll do it. And they'll trade it in for something like a Maserati, but they have to roll that $20,000 of negative equity into their next car loan. So now they're not buying the car for $90,000. They're buying it technically for $110,000. And you know they're going to charge interest on that extra $20,000 already. And they're just going to continue doing that. So a lot of people are that stupid. They're actually doing that, and it's insane. If you owe more than your car's worth, you just have to bite the bullet and just keep driving the car you have. Look back, if you have to, look back on the first day that you bought that car and remember, why did you get it? What made you fall in love with that car? Try to find where that love went. Try to catch it. Try to get it back. And just hang on to it for dear life.
The Jeep Wagoneers are also diabolical when it comes to depreciation. These were going over $100,000 when it was hot in the market. People were rolling over trades, rolling over $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in negative equity.
I guess they did lower them a bit.
Over $120,000 in some cases, Jeep Wagoneer.
But wait, they start at $78,900. If you get the top trim level of a Jeep Wagoneer, it's probably still well over $100,000.
Even AI knows that depreciation on a Jeep Wagoneer, 2022 Jeep Wagoneer,
81
has depreciated over $43,000 or 50% in the last 3 years.
Wow. Did you hear that? 50% in the last 3 years. So if you bought a Jeep Wagoneer in 2022 and you're sitting and you still have it to this day, it's dropped about 50% in value. So chances are you still probably owe a lot more than what it's worth.
AI knows that depreciation on Jeep Wagoneers is mind-blowing. And they come with receipts.
Yeah, even AI
Series
knows.
3 2022 Jeep Wagoneer 4x4 is going for $49,885 from MSRP of $80,000. Does not include tags, tag fees, or anything. So almost 50% depreciation in a couple years.
Yep.
Never buy a Range Rover. Always lease these because
you will end up like
many of the callers that are asking Yusuf, I sell or trade in their Range Rover to me, and they still owe $70,000, $80,000 from a $120,000 sticker or finance tag that they had on the vehicle. These depreciate like 1 year after. You're talking about $30,000, $40,000 in some cases in depreciation.
In 1 year.
So if you want a Range Rover, lease. Do not buy. And if you buy, please buy after 3 or 4 years when it's at the bottom of its depreciation curve.
There you go. That's good
Mercedes
advice.
GLS. Here we have a 2024 Mercedes GLS 450 with 19,000 miles that is selling for $69,990. these depreciate so much. That includes the Maybach, that includes the GLS 63, that includes the GLE 63. Any of the Mercedes SUVs, even some of the sports models are depreciating like crazy. We're talking about 30 to 50% in just a couple years.
Ouch.
MSRP on a 2024 Mercedes-Benz GLS 450 4MATIC SUV is $87,000. Okay, $87,000.
That's a lot.
That's just the invoice. That does not include. So let's say somebody walked out of the dealership with almost $100,000 financing this. 20,000 miles later and a year older, it's at $70,000, and they just cut the price tag, I guess, because it's been sitting on a lot for a long time.
Yep.
So buy smart. If you want to avoid depreciation, buy a luxury vehicle that is a couple years older. If you want to buy new, lease it new. That way you can avoid being in a situation where you're trading in and you have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in negative equity. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Yusuf, people that buy those have money. That's not the case. A lot of people have champagne taste.
Yeah, they certainly do.
What that means is they over leverage themselves and extend themselves to have a nice car. There's nothing wrong with having a nice car. Just make sure you can afford it, because you're going to be probably on my TikTok page in 2 years saying, hey, Yusuf, I made a mistake. The dealer tricked me into buying this $130,000 Range Rover. Now it's worth only $60,000. Anything you can do? No, there's nothing I can do. But there is something that you can do. You can educate yourself today to make better financial decisions tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely. That is good advice. Yeah, there's too many people out there. That's exactly what they're doing. And, you know, back in the day when I was like in my 20s, like back in like the 2000s, somebody was driving a new Mercedes or Audi or whatever the hell they're driving. You know, I would think to myself, wow, they must be doing something right. Probably a doctor or maybe a lawyer or something like that. You know, they're driving nice and everything. But today, I don't have that mindset today. Anytime I see somebody with a brand new car that nice, that has an MSRP of like $100,000, I'm thinking, yeah, that person's paying like probably $1,800 a month for that car, or like $1,500 a month for that car. They are absolutely insane. And a lot of them truly are, if not most people. They're paying out the ass for these cars, and they really can't afford it. And there's tons of people on his channel, they call in and they're practically begging him to help them get out of this situation that they're in, because they just realized that, wow, $1,500 a month. I just realized how brutally insane that really is, and how much it's eating into my monthly budget. And I can't save anything. I'm going to end up living just as paycheck to paycheck as possible for the next 60 months. And that's if I budget everything just right. I can't go out to eat, can't go on vacation or anything like that. I was just in love with the car. I had to get it because I had to be that person who had to impress everybody around me, which, you know, at the end of the day, nobody cares what kind of car you drive. Nobody cares. They really don't. I mean, they care as much about the car you drive as you care about what they drive. I mean, I would just think about that, and I guess I'll just leave it there. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.